right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Magnum Force, 1973. This is going to be another Karate Man recommendation. This is going to be another Dirty Harry flick. I like all three that I've seen so far. I sort of went around in circles. I started out with the Dirty Harry, or maybe it was Deadpool I started out with, and then Dirty Harry, and then I've seen Dirty Harry multiple times. And now Magnum Force is my third all-time Dirty Harry movie, and I love all three of them. I give all three of them 5 out of 5 stars. There's a cool looking poster with Clint Eastwood in close up, kind of a 3D shot of his Magnum gun that he uses on the cardboard cutouts, targets. Pretty cool looking movie poster. I wouldn't mind having this one and Death Warrant with Van Damme as movie posters in the background. It's pink color. That's a little weird. But the rest of it is pretty much black and white. Interesting tones there on the movie poster. Magnum Force is a 1973 U.S. action thriller film and the second to feature Clint Eastwood as maverick cop Harry Callahan. After the 1971 film Dirty Harry, Ted Post, who had previously worked with Eastwood on Rawhide and Hang 'em High, directed the film. Do I have a Rawhide or Hang 'em High on my list? The screenplay was written by John Milius and Michael Cimino, who later worked with Eastwood on Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. The film's score was composed by Lalo Schifrin. This film features early appearances by David Soul, Tim Matheson, and Robert Urich. At 123 minutes, it is the longest of the 5 Dirty Harry films. This one has a lot of nudity, although the great Adele Yoshioka, who was also in Kung Fu, by the way. She was in one Kung Fu episode. She does not get naked. Her long black hair is covering her nipples. And I think she's wearing panties. Obviously, she didn't want to get naked in this. After being acquitted of a mass murder on a legal technicality, Carmine Rica, the boss of the Italian-American San Francisco Mafia, must be on Columbus Street, leaves the court in his limousine. While traveling on a city road, the driver is pulled over by an SFPD, San Francisco Police Department motorcycle cop. You don't want to get pulled over by one of those, who calmly guns down all the occupants of the car. The cop is inspired by some South American death squads of the mid-70s. Inspector Harry Callahan visits the crime scene with his new partner, Erlington Early Smith, despite the fact that the two are supposed to be on stakeout duty. Their superior, Lieutenant Neil Briggs, seems eager to keep Callahan out of the murder investigation, and for good reason. There are a couple of plot twists, even though this movie doesn't have any plot. I guess you can call it Storyline twists? And what is Dirty Harry playing anti-vigilante cop? I guess he draws the line when it comes to the law. He respects the law, but he doesn't respect it in the first movie. I don't get it. But I don't care. It was entertaining. All right. Production company, the Malpazzo Company, distributed by Warner Brothers. Release date December 25th, Christmas Day, 1973. Running time 123 minutes. Country United States language English. And box office a whopping $44.6 million in the USA alone. Can you say lame stream? All right. While visiting the airport, Callahan helps deal with two men trying to hijack an airplane. He later meets rookie officers Phil Sweet, John Davis, Alan Red, Ashtran, and Mike Grimes while visiting the police firing range at odd hours of the morning. Sweet is an ex-Army Ranger and Vietnam veteran with great marksmanship skills. Obviously not good enough to defeat the Viet Cong. And his friends are not that different. Elsewhere, a motorcycle cop shoots up a pool party containing no less than Suzanne Summers in a bikini, leaving no usable evidence of his crime. So the death squad cop who shoots first, asks questions later, he ends up shooting Suzanne Summers from what was that TV show? John Ritter. That was Three's Company. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. As Callahan and Early take down criminals at a drugstore, a pimp murders a prostitute for withholding money from him. Yeah, he pours drainer fluid down her throat. The next day, the pimp is killed by a patrolman. The death squad is back. While investigating the scene, Callahan realizes that the culprit is a cop. He assumes the culprit to be his old friend Charlie McCoy, played by the great Mitchell Ryan from Dark Shadows, who has become despondent and suicidal after leaving his wife. I thought he was doing it the whole time, too. I got tricked. The movie tricked me. Later, a motorcycle cop murders drug kingpin Lou Guzman. The killer, revealed to be Davis, encounters McCoy in the parking garage and guns him down. Well, so much for the Charlie McCoy theory. But can you pin it down to one person? Now I'm believing that Davis is the lone killer, but not so. There were like 3 plot twists here. Can we call them plot twists? When there is no plot? Okay, I'll call it storyline twists. At the annual shooting competition, Callahan learns that Davis was the first officer to arrive after the murders of Guzman and McCoy. He retrieves a slug from Davis's weapon using a clever shooting range contest. And he has ballistics match it to the bullets from the Guzman murder. Callahan begins to suspect that a secret death squad within the FSFPD is responsible for the killing. So there's another storyline twist. It's not just Davis. His His buddies are in on it too. Briggs insists that Rika's former mafia associate, Frank Palancio, is the real culprit. Callahan persuades Briggs to assign Davis and Sweet as backup for a raid on Palancio's offices. However, Palancio and his gang of mafiosi are tipped off via phone call. Sweet is killed by shotgun blast, and all of Palacio's men die in the ensuing shootout. But they can't kill Callahan. He's invincible. Palancio attempts to escape, but Callahan jumps on the hood of his car, causing him to lose control and crash into a crane, killing him. He gets impaled by a crane. This movie's brutal. Briggs angrily suspends Callahan for the death of Sweet. After returning home, Callahan finds Davis, Astrachan, and Grimes waiting for him, presenting him with an ultimatum to side with them. Callahan refuses. Much to their surprise, he says, "You misjudge me." While checking his mailbox, Callahan discovers a bomb left by the vigilantes, and he manages to defuse it after almost blowing up his girlfriend. A second bomb, however, kills early before Callahan can warn him. And that's the last we see of Early. Callahan informs Briggs about the bomb. Callahan discovers Briggs is a secret leader of the Death Squad. Here we got another storyline twist. Briggs defends his action, claiming that he is only doing what the broken legal system cannot. He seems to be making the Dirty Harry argument. So it's odd to hear Briggs making the same argument that Callahan made in the first movie. Callahan responds that he knows the system is flawed, but he has chosen to stand by it until someone comes up with something better. So he's a changed man. He wants incrementalism. He doesn't want anti-communist death squads from South America running the police department. At gunpoint, Briggs orders Callahan to drive to an undisclosed location while being followed by Grimes. Callahan manages to disarm Briggs. Callahan forces him out of the car before running Grimes over. Davis and Astrachan appear, causing Callahan to flee into a derelict aircraft carrier. In a shipbreaker's yard, Callahan kills Astrachan, and he takes his motorcycle, leading Davis in a series of jumps between ships. The chase ends with Davis driving off the ship into the San Francisco Bay and dying on impact. It didn't look like that much of a fall, but okay. Maybe he did a belly flop on the San Francisco Bay. Callahan is then confronted at gunpoint by Briggs. The lieutenant mocks Callahan, and the lieutenant threatens to have him prosecuted. As Callahan backs away from the car, he surreptitiously activates the timer on his mailbox bomb, and he tosses it in the back seat, which explodes and kills Briggs moments later. And then Callahan repeats the same one-liner that he's been using throughout the movie 3 times. And that's it. That's the end of the movie. Pretty cool stuff. Highly recommended. Check it out. It's super violent. It's got nudity. You've got the you got three different storyline twists, and you've got Hal Holbrook trying to one up Dirty Harry Hallahan. There's quite a lot of stuff going on in this movie. I thought it was enjoyable. And it's got the 70s wah-wah guitar at the beginning. Writer John Milius came up with a storyline in which a group of young rogue officers in the SFPD, I guess they're trying to be like 1990s LAPD, they systematically exterminate the city's worst criminals, conveying the idea that even worse rogue cops than Dirty Harry exist. They're trying to one-up Dirty Harry. Terrence Malick had introduced the concept in an unused draft for the first film. Director Don Siegel disliked the idea and had Malick's draft thrown out, but Clint Eastwood remembered it for this film. Eastwood specifically wanted to convey that despite the 1971 film's perceived politics, Harry was not a complete vigilante. He's only incremental vigilante. David Soul, Tim Matheson, Robert Urich, and Kip Nevin were cast as the young vigilante cops. The firing squad. Milius was a gun aficionado and a political conservative, and the film would extensively feature gun shooting in practice, competition, and on the job. This is a gun owner's dream film right here. Given the strong theme in the film, the title was soon changed from Vigilance to Magnum Force in deference to the .44 Magnum that Harry liked to use. Milius thought it was important to remind the audiences of the original film by incorporating the line, "Do you feel lucky?" repeated in the opening credits. With Milius committed to filming Dillinger, with the great Warren Oates, Michael Cimino was later hired to revise the script, overseen by Ted Post, who was to direct. According to Milius, his script did not contain any of the final action sequences, the car chase and the climax on the aircraft carriers. His was a simple script. The addition of character Sonny's was done at the suggestion of Eastwood, who reportedly received letters from a woman asking for a female to hit on Harry, not the other way around. How come my neighbors never do that to me? I want Sonny to come to my house. Milius later said he did not like the film and he wished Don Siegel had directed it as originally intended. Of all the films I had anything to do with, I like it least. They change a lot of things in a cheap and distasteful manner. Cool. We like cheap and distasteful. The whole ending is wrong. It wasn't mine at all. All movies had a motorcycle or car chase at the time, except Westerns. They have a scene where this black girl's pimp forces Drano down her throat. In the script, they merely went into the morgue, and Harry said, "I don't feel bad for that SOB. Because 2 weeks ago, one of his girls was in here, and he poured Drano down her throat." I think it's better to hear about it than to see it later. Also, it goes right back to the character again. You understand Harry's feelings about it. All the stuff they put in about the Japanese girl They put in a scene where the star gets to hump some girl off camera, and it's pretty hard to get it out. My Dirty Harry scripts never had Harry knowing any girls too well other than hookers because he was a lonely guy who lived alone and he didn't like to associate with people. He could never be close enough to a woman to have any sort of affair. A bitter, lonely man who liked his work. Well, I don't mind Sunny being in the film. She just doesn't get naked. That's the problem. I'll give Milius writing credit for both this and Dillinger. Eastwood himself was initially offered the role of director, but he declined. Didn't he direct a different movie that's also very good? Ted Post, who also previously directed Eastwood and Rawhide and Hang 'em High, was hired. Buddy Van Horn and the second unit director. Both Eastwood and Van Horn went on to direct the final two entries in the series Sudden Impact and the Deadpool, respectively. Too bad the Deadpool was the last one. They should have just continued the series after the Deadpool. Frank Stanley was hired as cinematographer. Filming commenced in late April 1973. During filming, Eastwood encountered numerous disputes with Post over who was calling the shots and directing the film, and Eastwood refused to authorize two important scenes directed by Post in the film because of time and expenses. One of them was at the climax of the film with a long shot of Eastwood on his motorcycle as he confronts the rogue cops. As with many of his films, Eastwood was intent on shooting it as smoothly as possible, often refusing to do retakes over certain scenes. Post later remarked, "A lot of things he said were based on pure selfish ignorance, and it showed he was a man who controlled the power. By Magnum force, Clint's ego began applying for statehood." Post remained bitter with Eastwood for many years, and he claims disagreement over the filming affected his career afterwards. According to second unit director of photographer Rexford Metz, Eastwood would not take the time to perfect a situation. If you got 70% of the shot worked out, that's sufficient for him because he knows the audience will accept it. The film received negative publicity in 1974 when the scene where the prostitute is killed with Drano drain killer was found to have allegedly inspired the Hi-Fi murders, with the two killers believing the method would be as sufficient as it was portrayed in the film. The killers said they were looking up for a unique murder method when they stumbled upon the film, and had they not seen the movie, would have chosen a method from another film. The drain cleaner reference was repeated in at least two other films, including Heathers and Urban Legend. According to John Milius, this drain cleaner scene was never meant to be filmed, but only mentioned in his original script. So what are they saying? The film is responsible for the drain cleaner murders? In 1974? All right. In the film's opening week, it grossed $6,871,011 from 401 theaters. In the United States, the film made a total of $44,680,473, making it the more successful than the first film and the sixth highest grossing film of 1973. Theatrical rentals were $19.4 million in the United States and Canada and $9.5 million overseas, for a worldwide total of $28.9 million. The New York critics such as Nora Sayer criticized the conflicting moral themes of the film, and Frank Rich believed it was the same old stuff. Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4, and he wrote, "The problem with Magnum Force is that this new side of Harry, his anti-vigilism, is never made believable in the context of his continuing tendency to brandish his .45 Magnum revolver as if it were his phallus." Good point. We would call Dirty Harry gun crazy because he's looking to shoot first, ask questions later, but not as ruthless and bloodthirsty as his co-workers. The new clean Harry doesn't cut it. I was more surprised that Hal Holbrook was pretending to be a good lieutenant, and he ended up being even more radical and lunatic fringe than Dirty Harry. Some of the film's action sequences do cut it. Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times found the film too preoccupied in celebrating violence to keep it in focus. Pauline Kael, a harsh critic of Eastwood's for many years, mocked his performance as Dirty Harry, commenting, "He isn't an actor, so no one could hardly call him a bad actor. He'd have to do something before we would consider him bad at it, and acting isn't required of him in Magnum Force." Gary Arnold of the Washington Post was positive, praising the film as an ingenious and exciting crime thriller and a less self-righteous message than the original Dirty Harry. Gary Crowdis wrote in Cineast, "We are left with the comforting assurance that when we need him, Harry and all the cops like him who do the dirty jobs no one else wants will be they're protecting us from the lunatic fringes of both the left and right." Oh, here we go with the left versus right false dichotomy. Sure, Harry may be a little trigger happy, but at least he shoots the right people. The problem, however, one which the film raises but never resolves, is who determines the definition of right people. Dirty Harry and the Death Squad do. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film has a score of 70% based on 27 reviews. Pretty whopping film score on Rotten Tomatoes, with the critic consensus being Magnum Force ups the ante for the Dirty Harry franchise with faster action and thrilling stunt work. Oh, I still think the original is the best of the three. Magnum Force is probably third best or on the bottom of the list. Force 1973, rated R, 2 hours and 4 minutes of Dirty Harry. Can't go wrong with that. Gets a whopping 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb, 70,000 ratings. It's lamestream, so you know it's a Karate Man recommendation. Popularity is 3,102, down 1,471. So it's extremely popular, although it used to be even more so. Inspector Dirty Harry Callahan pursues a conspiracy of vigilante cops who are not above going beyond the law to kill San Francisco's undesirables. And how is Harry Callahan obeying the law in the first movie. Inquiring minds want to know, why did Harry Callahan change so much? All right. Here's a less uh, flattering review from Broad's Word Callan Danny Boy. The title of the review on IMDb is called Clint Eastwood Knows His Limitations. Broad's Word Callan Danny Boy gives this one an 8 out of 10. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10. So we've got the compare and contrast movie reviews. As usual, we're going to show you different aspects of movie reviews on this channel because we don't have a second reviewer here. Terrence went back to Santa Rosa. I have no cross marketing or guest on this channel. I'm just the Lone Ranger tonight, and I just had 4 people in the chat room leave. Isn't that nice? All right, more like this. The Enforcer, Sudden Impact, Dirty Harry, and the Deadpool. I think I have The Enforcer and Sudden Impact on my movies list. Albert Popwell, who played the pimp, appeared in the first 4 Dirty Harry movies with Clint Eastwood. He portrayed a different character in each movie. He was the bank robber in Dirty Harry 1971, the pimp in this movie, a black militant leader in The Enforcer 1976. Dirty Harry was 1971, and Harry's partner Horace in Sudden Impact. All right, here we go. Here's the review from Broad's Word Callan Danny Boy. It's dated February 19, 2007. Clint Eastwood Knows His Limitations is the title of the IMDb review. After a known criminal with clout over the city manages to escape the punishment of the law, he and his partners are gunned down by a vigilante dressed as a cop with a .44 Magnum. Drawn to the case, infamous San Francisco Detective Dirty Harry Callahan starts to investigate as the vigilante continues to take out criminals citywide. Is it vigilante or vigilantes? You can't really see their faces because the motorcycle helmet and the glasses cover up everything. And their voices don't sound like Mitchell Ryan. So you think it's Mitchell Ryan the whole time, and they're just playing with you. But it's not. Soon there are suspicions that the criminals are getting their information from inside the police force. If there is one actor that can be plainly badass, macho, and tough in the most stereotypical way without making a fool of himself, it's Clint Eastwood. Never has an actor been so plain and stoic, yet so entertaining and funny at the same time. That's because Eastwood knows his limitations and, as a result, never becomes totally ridiculous, whether he's dropping one-liners, shooting his cannon of a revolver, or mysteriously seducing women with no effort whatsoever. Clint Eastwood just plays it cool. Steve McQueen also managed the same with his classic Bullet. And Dirty Harry uses essentially the same formula, but it does it well with its own unique spin and style. Also, Clint Eastwood has lived well past McQueen's early death, so his films are more prevalent in the current movie mindset. The film isn't quite perfect, and there's one sequence in particular at the airport where Harry takes out 2 hijackers single-handedly that seems to be just there to show that Harry Callahan is a badass. who makes his own rules and gets things done. Yet this scene does nothing to advance the plot. Well, there isn't a plot in this movie. I don't know what you're objecting to. It's just an extra scene that they didn't cut. With the film clocking in at over 2 hours, this could have been easily dropped. Okay. Along with a few trimmings here and there for a slightly brisker film. I have to admit that the buildup was a little bit slow. And that's why I'm not rating it as high as the first one or the last one. The film isn't quite perfect, and there's okay. That said, the movie remains entertaining and a good part of Eastwood action era. 8 out of 10. Rated R for violence. And nudity also. What about the nudity? You forgot that there's naked white women in this? And the Japanese babe doesn't even get naked? Discrimination! All right. So Albert Popwell played the black militant leader in The Enforcer, 1976, and Harry's partner Horace in Sudden Impact, 1983. Prior to this, Popwell also appeared alongside Eastwood in the 1968 action film Coogan's Bluff. During the try knocking on the door dialogue, a trolley can be seen passing by on the street outside. One of the trolley patrons waves directly at the camera, obviously aware that a film was being shot. Quotes from Harry Callahan, "A man's got to know his limitation." The credits are played over a hand, presumably Harry's, holding a .44 Magnum against a red background. As such, this is the only Dirty Harry movie in which the opening credits are not played over San Francisco scenery. Harry Callahan's character name becomes Harry Callahan in the Italian version. He has a G in his name. And titles because the local distributor thought it sounded better. Edited into the Green Fog, 2017. Release date December 25th, Christmas Day, 1973 in the U.S. Country of origin, U.S. Language, English, also known as Magnum 44. Filming locations, 800 block Vermont Street, San Francisco, California, USA. I know where that's at. It's right off 101 Highway before you get to the bridge, the Bay Bridge. Harry's skillful driving down the crookedest street in San Francisco. Production companies, the Malpaso Company, Warner Brothers. See more company credits at IMDb Pro. Gross U.S. and Canada, $39,768,000. Gross worldwide, $39,768,000. Meaning it only played in U.S. and Canada? I thought they said there was a Italian version. This can't be right. The gross worldwide has to be higher. Runtime, 2 hours, 4 minutes. It's in color, of course. Sound mix, mono. Aspect ratio, 2.39 to 1. And there you have it. Yeah, I've only seen 3 of the 5, I guess. Is it 5 or 6? I've only seen roughly half. I've seen the first, the last, and the second. Movies in between I haven't seen. But if I was to rank it, I would say the first one is number one, Deadpool is number two, and the sequel is number three so far. I'll be able to give you an updated list once I make it that far. But I do have Friday, July 4th off. So I'm looking to make some big progress on my movie reviews this coming weekend. I've got Friday, the 4th, completely off. And hopefully Saturday I don't have anything going on. It's 4th of July weekend. Come on. So my friend Terrence from Santa Rosa, he's super psyched about July 4th. He wants to do snow cones and California quizzes at some Knights of Columbus table at my church. I guess being patriotic means you worship Uncle Sam and the state of California. So going down my list, still stuck in Footprints of God with Stephen K. Ray, 2014. I'm going to watch that tomorrow night. And then Friday, I'll get back into my movies list. In between these next three movies, I'm going to watch Footprints of God. Hopefully, I'll get through the entire thing soon. And I can just do movies instead of one movie here, watch another film series here, and then one movie here, watch another film series here. So first on my list of movies is Nowhere to Run, 1993. Jean-Claude Van Damme. Then we got Martial Law 2, Undercover, 1992. That's number two. And then number three is The Enforcer, 1976. I think I mentioned that. That one and Sudden Impact I have not seen. So I guess there are 5 in the series, and I've only seen 3 so far. So I got a long way to go. Adrian had all of them on VHS. Deadpool, he was getting old. I like the scene with Jim Carrey where he's like weaked out on Guns N' Roses music. That was the highlight of Deadpool. I watched that with my uncle on cable one time, and we were going, what the heck is this? This movie is nuts. I think patriotism is overrated. Yeah, what does patriotism mean anyway? If I say I love my country, does it mean I own every square inch of land of my country simply because I was born here or I immigrated here from some other country? Is that what it means to be patriotic? You suddenly own every single piece of land in your country. It sounds like Arlo Guthrie. This land is my land. This land is your land. Of course, Arlo Guthrie was a communist. So it figures that the neocon war hawk imperialists, worshippers of Beelzebub, they love the U.S. flag. I like the Gadsden flag, or maybe the South Carolina Liberty flag, the Confederate flag, the narco-capitalist flag. Anything but the U.S. flag. All right. That's just me. I guess I'm patriotic in a different way. I'm patriotic for the individual, not the state. But that's a whole nother story. All right. So those are the next three on my list. Martial Law 2. The Enforcer. Or no, Martial Law 2 Undercover. That one is Jeff Wincott, Cynthia Rothrock, Billy Drago, the usual suspects of the Karate Man low budget film. So I'm looking forward to Martial Law 2 Undercover. Nowhere to Run and the Enforcer. There might be some badass in those, but we'll have to wait and see. Look at white flag, Australian flag. You see the British flag. Oh, I kind of like the Betsy Ross 13 Stars flag. My friend Terrence has that on his window, but he said he paid $45 for it. Anyways, he's going to be trying to mix patriotism and Catholicism at church, which is like every single church patron at my church is a big time Republican country club type individual. Anyways, nice talking to you, Adrian. Adrian's in the chat room, by the way, if you wonder who I've been talking to. So, yeah, we'll try to get through this list, get through all the Karate Man stuff, and then get back to, M is 16 on my list. So, Adrian's been recommending M for years. For years. He'll recommend it once a year for the last 8 years. Ever since he recommended Microwave Massacre. All right, cool. So I'm finally going to get around to M, which is Peter Lorre's film debut. And that'll be hopefully next month. Because tomorrow's the last day of the month. I got to pay rent, pay bills. Hopefully I can start paying down my BMO credit card. And we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Laters.